And we can get into the ethics of debating who killed more people, the assassin or the CEO of the company. The American nation, is that we don't have single payer healthcare, which other countries do, like the United Kingdom, some the countries in the north of Europe. What are they called? The Nordic countries
Yeah.
and like Canada. All of them like have insurance like just granted to them for being citizens of the country, and like it really just sheds a light on like the unfairness of the American society and the American, nation. And I think and everybody's feeling the struggle right now in terms of like the cost of living and just like we're living in tough times. And I think like this feels like a win for the working class.
And one of the biggest things that I've taken on in the dental industry is to fight against insurances as often and as hard as possible. I constantly am having to break down denials from insurance companies just to try and show them right back to them, like, you are not actually denying the right thing. Please stop denying claims and doing a disservice to our patients. Please be the change that the world needs to see.
I have been obsessing over how to fix my circadian rhythm for years. And like I was really far off the deep end. Like probably earlier this year, I wasn't sleeping till like 3, 4 a.m.
Ooh.
And I wasn't waking up till like at least 11 or 12. But I don't know what did it. And even like I usually hate daylight savings, but right now when the sun sets, like it's like a very strong cue, like get in bed.
Yeah.
Like my whole being just wants to be inside the bed and like I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah, I agree. I I think I told you that I did this in during COVID. So I am a like deep, deep, heavy sleeper. It is almost impossible to wake me up. Um, like severe,
I know that. I know that because I've tried to wake you up before.
dude, it's impossible. Um, well, so during COVID, when the shutdown happened, I was like, I know that if I have nowhere to go, no
Mm,
responsibilities right now, like I am literally going to hibernate sleep through the pandemic. Like there's no
yeah.
way
You knew
that,
yourself.
yeah. So I was like, what I need to do is just set a very strict sleeping schedule and just pray that it works. And so I immediately started with the 9 to 5 sleeping, and it worked immediately. Like at the beginning of COVID, I was waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning um, to like have my alone time and to have my coffee and to chill and all of that stuff. And it worked really well. And it was like the first time in my life that like I've always fallen asleep easy, but it was the first time in my life that I woke up easy. And it was great. And so I realized that that's probably more of what my body's like cycle is. So, since I've been trying to also just get into my body's rhythm, like not necessarily circadian rhythm, but just hormones and all the things and just really listen to my body. And so, yeah, I started it again and it's been about a month. The hardest part is the consistency. It's like literally if I go to bed at 8:30, it's too early and it messes me up. If I go to bed at 9:30, it's too late and it messes me up. It's like, okay, got it.
Incredible. It's incredible because I'm the type of person who has a hard time connecting with the body.
Me
Um,
too.
like my brain, I'm so deep in my brain, like in my thoughts.
What are you
Uh,
using for your primer? Well,
I'm
while you
I
describe that, sorry.
I am using this cool thing I won at work. It
You won.
Cosmetics, a raffle,
Oh, that's cool.
and it's from the It Cosmetics line, and it's Confidence in an Eye Cream. It's 2% super peptide, and peptides are supposed to be good for filling in wrinkles and plumping the skin so you don't look all parched. And I look parched all the time. Like I have really dry skin, and that kind of is what contributes to my premature wrinkling. Also, that I love being
Mm.
in the sun, and I spent like all of my childhood and 20s at the beach with you.
That's
um,
pretty cool.
yeah, and I'm
That-
also fair skinned, and then like the more fair skin you have, the faster you show signs of aging
oh, absolutely.
because
But
it's
I
kind of
didn't know that about peptides.
yes. So peptides are if you see something with peptides and that they have like a full spectrum of peptides, that can really help with
Mm.
fine lines and wrinkles and just keeping the skin like plump. Um, I don't know. I can't see. It's hard for me because I need to see to believe.
But I feel like that's pretty difficult with cosmetics.
It is. It's like, but it's something that I take seriously just because I remember the first time I noticed my wrinkles. I was in Boston. I was like 26. Oh, you have something similar to me. I like these pots. They feel so
Oh, yeah,
legit.
me too.
Bobbi
Mine's
Brown.
the Bobbi Brown vitamin enriched face base.
My mom is a Bobbi Brown stan. Like something about my mom is that like she has always been the type of person that when you open her makeup bag, like she only has one brand. Like she's loyal to the whole brand.
Oh, like top to bottom. I think we were talking about that before. I feel like that's got to be good with the consistency because of what you were talking about or teaching me about the layering and letting things like sit for a few moments, whatnot.
Yeah. And like I just always noticed like now thinking back, like that's always been her makeup bag. Like when I was younger, she only had MAC. But like everything in
Mm.
the makeup bag was MAC. And they were like obsessed with MAC. Now she's obsessed, like now she does Bobbi Brown. And it's almost like I find it kind of bougie, like damn, like the whole bag is Bobbi Brown, like must be nice.
Yeah, that's funny.
But that's just her style. And like also like to be fair, like she's not as obsessed with makeup, so she goes to the Bobbi Brown counter and
Mm,
ask the woman like help. Like I have an interview or I have this event and like the girl helps her put her makeup on and then she sells her the products. So I think
yeah,
that's how she
totally.
ends up getting the whole line, which I really recommend to people. Like if you don't know, go to a
Yeah,
counter and
yeah.
those girls or men or individuals are really talented and can really help you, if you don't have time to like watch YouTube videos.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's where I learned majority, all of what I know about makeup was that
Right.
year going to Sephora and doing those makeovers constantly.
Oh,
But
do you
you
use
were
sunscreen?
in my facial moisturizer if I actually wash my face in the morning.
You don't wash your face in the morning? Well, you're not supposed to. I read that you're not supposed to. You're supposed to like wash it with water.
No, I am very bad at self-care. I am working on it.
Bad. What do you
I'm
mean bad? Okay, self-care is also
um
very bad, like very huge. And also you just explained to me like your sleeping schedule, and I feel like that to me shows that you're actually really good at self-care. So I'm curious why you would
no.
say that.
No, I the like ability to actually take care of myself is missing. Like I've been working with somebody recently to get in tune with my body to help bring me out of my overhead chakra down into my body to help me be more grateful for her and to love her and to appreciate the beating heart because I very consistently live in the spiritual realm and the dream state. And I believe that that is a big reason as to why it's so hard for me to wake up. I really enjoy what my brain has the possibilities of doing. I don't know how to describe that. any other way. But then once I am awake, so like waking up in the morning is very difficult. I'm constantly like stuck in this dream realm, and I always find a cognitive way to give myself excuses to stay asleep in the mornings. So I usually end up sleeping in until the very last minute where I only have enough time to prioritize certain things like throwing together my lunch so that this way I don't starve for the day. And I do that instead of doing things like washing my face and brushing my hair and most oftentimes brushing my teeth, which is really like the biggest sign when I say that I have a hard time doing self care because I work in dentistry. Why would I put aside oral care when that is literally my like heartbeat? So,
Mm.
so that's just like the primary example. If I didn't have a husband who cooked, I would not be eating well because I don't cook for myself or care for myself. So I'm practicing, I really am. And I believe that a huge problem with it is the ADHD
You don't say.
is
Have you heard
so,
of executive functioning?
yes. And I believe that I suffer really bad from the transitions. It's really hard for me to go from one activity to the next. And I believe that is a portion of executive function
Yes,
is
that's kind of
not having
yes.
it to go from
Just
one to
changes
the
in
other.
general. Any
Yeah.
change in general, like it could be literally any change, just is very hard to cope with.
Yes.
Somebody, one of my close friends that I talk to regularly, she's a little bit older than us. I mean, not a little bit, a lot older. She's in her 50s, but she pointed out to me the other day, like, hey, every time you go on a trip, like on a vacation somewhere, like you come back extremely dysregulated. And I was like, because she pointed out this last time I went to Las Vegas, and then before that, I had gone to Cartagena for a couple weeks
Mhm.
and back. And like, she's so right. Like, after these two vacations that were supposed to be really enriching and like helpful, like, I came back completely dysregulated. Like, took me like weeks to get back to like a baseline, like, feeling. And even like when I got back from Cartagena, actually, my whole life was like disrupted, like from the bottom up. So
Yeah.
I hadn't really seen that pattern, but she's like a pattern woman.
Mm.
And she pointed it out to me, and I was like, interesting. Like how something that for other people could be like a respite from routine or could be really helpful for them. Like for us who need like stability and consistency and like we function better when there's less unknowns, like a vacation could actually be really destabilizing,
Right.
which is like a trip because I love traveling.
Yeah, right. I feel like it's hard for me to say whether I experience that or not because when I'm my own first person, no, I'm not always able to see my own patterns. I do know that it is hard after travel. I've heard that from many people actually. And I feel like generally I'm able to keep up a decent amount of a rhythm when I travel, but I believe it's because we do it so often. Like Michael and I are gone almost every weekend to every other weekend to like least often twice a month, right? Like we're constantly on the move, as you can see in our stories. So I generally feel like I keep a really good rhythm when I go out of town, and it doesn't bother me to travel so much. My my rhythms, I feel like, really last in my day to day, like actual sleep schedule and the foods that I'm consuming. So, like my most recent trip, I was able to keep my food regulated pretty simply, and I had a really decent return, which was good. But yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say, yeah, like these things like practice. is because like the way I see that is like also just when we refer to like ADHD, it's called autism and ADHD, but it's really just like any neurodivergence, and it's also a spectrum. So,
Yeah,
and it could be diagnosed,
completely.
undiagnosed. It's just like things that like these things that you and I resonate with because we have experience with it, and then we also like follow a lot of like therapists and meme pages about like struggles with neurodiversity. For the audience, what I was gonna say was like, yeah, like your practice with traveling with your husband, like that's that's so important to have tools and like even like if you're gonna go and like have a change, like have like you have the consistency of Michael and like your routine. Like you've practiced
Yeah,
it so many times that like you become an expert at it and it doesn't like
yeah.
totally disrupt your life. Versus like me, like I never travel even though I really want to. So like when it comes time to travel, like I become crazy. Like when I was younger, I used to like go and buy a whole new wardrobe. Like I definitely get kind of manic. Like I go buy a new wardrobe because I was like, I need a new wardrobe. I need new clothes.
That's what I was also just thinking too, is
Yeah,
the like I don't want to say amount or lack of amount, but the infrequency of your travel is probably part of the like disruption, the like fact that it doesn't happen so often. So it makes it when it happens that much harder to adapt to. That's got to be a huge
totally.
part of it too.
Yeah.
So I
And
forgot to bring my other foundation down. Of course, I still stuck with the brand that I'm like obsessed with. But I do have the other one is a Lady Gaga. So I'm gonna bring
oh,
that
House
next to you.
Labs.
Yeah,
I heard those are really good. I want to try that foundation.
I really like it. I meant to bring it down for this one.
I've actually like never been able to get into foundation. Sorry, my lighting is like really crappy right now.
Hmm.
Oh, there we
So
go.
I really want to hear, you've been putting on a lot of different products this morning, and what is it doing for you? And then I want to
It's
transition us
doing everything.
into our healthcare CEO conversation.
Okay, so
Because if you don't use
I
foundation, like how do you get that skin so beautiful? I want to hear it all. Go for it.
okay. So I first of all, skincare. Skincare for me is huge. I do a lot of skincare and I do a light coverage foundation. The one that's worked for me, I think I've showed it before. It's the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. And it's a tinted moisturizer, so it's very light coverage. It was $5. It also has skincare in it, hyaluronic acid and squalene, both things that do plumping. And it's just like it's very thin serum-like, so it doesn't feel cakey. Also, because I have like this insecurity about my wrinkles, I always feel like a thick foundation like goes into the crevices more, so I just kind of shy away from them. And I remember this past summer, I really wanted to get into foundation, like really badly. So I went to Sephora and I bought like a Fenty one, the stick. I bought all these like foundations and it didn't work for me. I also feel like I don't like the feeling of like not being able to like the feeling of I know I touch my face a lot during the day, so just like a full coverage foundation, I feel like I'm wearing too much of a mask. I want something that just blends in with the skin. So I end up like using either this and I just put a tiny bit and I kind of like blend it in with the skincare that's still setting, or I do I do my uh, excuse me. I do concealer, which I can't find, and I put the concealer just under the eyes and in the T, and I kind of spread it around. Um, that's really what I do because, like I said, I just don't feel comfortable having like a deep layer, not a deep, but a full coverage foundation. And also, probably because my camera is not too great, that's why my skin looks great. But it's the skincare. I think it's the skincare and the like, yeah, the skincare. That's it.
That's
Oh, and
pretty
I wanted to
cool.
just say that I got this too in the raffle that I won. It's called a sun glow.
What is it?
It's kind of like it says blush plus bronzer and 95% solid serum. So it's one of those like orangey kind of terracotta colors that could pass
Oh,
for a bronzer or could pass for like a brick red
interesting.
blush. So you can kind of use it like to contour and give you some warmth like a blush. So and it's also serum. So again, it just kind of adds. See how like it's shine. See how my skin kind of has like that glow to it. I don't know if you
Totally.
can see it. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people achieve this by highlighter, and I just try to use like cream products that have like a sheer to it to do that.
Mm. Yeah, I like that effect.
Me too. The dewy versus matte. They're
Yeah.
both cool. They're both cool. Um, I feel like a matte, like when it's like very powdery, it has that like old Hollywood look I really like.
Yeah, totally. But I feel like the matte is when you see a lot more creases. So I've been really liking more of the glowy, shiny, but not really understanding the products enough to achieve it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's more about maybe more like cream products. And even now I'm adding a highlighter to give it even a more intense effect. Do you see this? Because I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
understand highlighter for the longest time. I was like, that's so weird. Why would you highlight your face? But I get it now. You just want that like, wow, like radiant, like I just came out of the sun. I'm just glowing like
Right.
a goddess.
Just a glowing goddess.
Good. So can we talk about the equalizer, the CEO equalizer, the claims adjuster?
Yes. So I feel like most of this conversation's going to be a little one-sided, just warning. A lot of this I am still processing. I'm having a hard time finding the words around it for myself. So I'm going to let you be the leader, and maybe it will help me with my own conversation.
Okay, I wish I had more facts, but just off the top of my head, on December 4th, which was 5 days ago, I only know this because this was my little brother's birthday.
Ooh,
uh,
right.
isn't that weird?
It is weird.
Um, so it was like early in the morning, 6 a.m. From what I understand, there was some sort of conference related to insurance. And in Manhattan, like New York City, the main bureau, I don't know exactly where, I think it was like Midtown, near the hotel where they were having the conference, the CEO of United Healthcare was walking on the side of the street and he was approached by a man from behind, unbeknownst to him, who had a silencer on his pew pew and basically um, got shot. Um, and he was taken to, sorry, after the shooting, the shooter, or how they, the CEO assassin, fled on foot and he hopped on a city bike, which is like that ride share bikes that
Oh,
you
yeah.
just, those programs they have in certain, like the Lime bikes and that sort of thing. And then he hopped on one of those. He rode away and he got into Central Park. And in Central Park, there are no cameras. So what they think he did is that he changed clothes, disposed of his backpack and everything, and just, you know, blended in and somehow definitely escaped Manhattan and New York City. And some people think he even escaped the country. But he's out and he
Oh.
hasn't been found.
I
And this
heard
happened
that
5 days
they
ago.
saw footage of him on the metro and that he had some form of battery in his hand that looked like the e-bike was altered. I read that on one website
The
because they
e-bike
were
was
thinking,
altered
yeah, because those e-bikes, you have to have some form of debit card or account to make
to
them
unlock.
run, to unlock them. And they were thinking that that was going to be the way to find him. And then they found that
No,
footage.
he was incredible, like um not to glorify criminals because it is wrong to murder another person, and we can get into the ethics of debating who killed more people, the assassin or the CEO of the company, by denying claims and leading to people to not have access to health care that they need for life-saving treatments because the insurance denied it. So,
What is that you're putting on your face?
concealer, because I forgot earlier. I'm just
Oh,
brightening the T-zone. This is the T-zone, I think, like T.
yeah. Okay, sorry. But yeah,
And
the ethics.
yeah. Well, I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, like so some people say so the way so yeah, he murdered somebody in cold blood. He walked up behind him, shot him. Okay, he made a mistake or he committed a crime. And then at the same time, the CEO, by virtue of being the CEO, by being the leader, the representation of this company, uh, they have members who pay into the insurance every month. But then when they go and they file a claim for saying, hey, let's take, for instance, I have cancer and I need this treatment, this life-saving medication or surgery, you know, this is one of the companies that has one of the highest rates of denying claims. So they'll deny the claim. Yeah, you can't get this, you can't get the treatment that is recommended by the doctors, and unless you create a GoFundMe or empty out your savings account or whatever, you basically are unable to receive the treatment that the doctors recommend. And in some instances, in a lot of instances, like it has led to the fatality of the individual because they didn't receive the treatment. And so the discourse online was like, hey, like my father died because United Healthcare didn't approve his claim for this type of treatment, like a lot of people felt like this was like an equalizer event. Like, dude, you hurt my family because this guy's rigged, right? Like he has access to anything he needs,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but these, common working class people who use this insurance, by the way, who have insurance, which is already a top tier of society because a lot of Americans don't even have insurance. Like they couldn't even dream of this.
I don't have insurance. I'm gonna get taxed on my taxes for it.
Oh, right now they force you to get into Medi-Cal or something. And like I personally
Yeah, they
have
do, but
Medi
I don't have it. I mean, I'm gonna get taxed
because
because
because you're not enrolled.
correct.
Yeah. Well, because now there's an option for people. It just depends. It's such a complicated system and like it's so hard to navigate. And then there's penalties like if you don't follow the rules, but nobody really knows what the exact rules are. There's not like one centralized place. And that's kind of the issue of the American nation, is that we don't have single payer healthcare, which other countries do, like the United Kingdom, some the countries in the north of Europe. What are they called? The Nordic countries
Yeah.
and like Canada. All of them like have insurance like just granted to them for being citizens of the country, and like they don't have to work. There's no like different levels of insurance. Obviously, there's doctors that accept like just cash, but everybody has access to the NHS in the UK, the National Health Service. It's called single payer. So it's just a more like I don't know if fair is the right word because I'm sure there are like critiques of that system too, but the point is that everybody just gets healthcare like automatically. It's not like there's all these barriers to entry like we have here in the United States. It's usually like you have insurance relating to a job. So if you're employed and the employer has an insurance plan, you're able to join that insurance plan. So your healthcare is tied to your employer. So if you lose your job, you lose not only your salary, but your healthcare,
Yeah, totally. Which is
which is crazy.
should not be linked to each other.
Yeah, like healthcare, like if we go back to the basics, like access to healthcare and medical care, in my opinion, is a human right. There are like certain things that are a human right for me. Healthcare.
Yeah, I agree
One.
with that.
Two, food. Is a human right to need food. Food and water, I would put those together because like you can die without water in like 2 or 3 days. So water and
Yeah.
food, I feel like is a, why, and then the third thing I think is shelter, like housing. I think shelter is a human right, like a safe place to like sleep. Like everybody needs to sleep. Nobody is above sleeping. And
Right. Ain't that the truth?
like everybody needs fucking sleep. And like you should be able to sleep uninterrupted and in a safe place for your 8 hours so you can get up and be a productive human, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. That is a very good one to be human.
There's just so much to say about this. And like I wish I had more. My problem is that I'm like an academic in the sense that like if I want to talk about a subject, I want to like go through the bullet points and I want to like get to the conclusion, and I feel like I'm all over the place, which I'm gonna just try to let go of and see what you have to say, because I think I've said a lot, and like these are just kind of like critiques that I feel, and I think that's why the discourse has been so big online about the CEO assassin, because it's a small, it's a insignificant event maybe, but it touches on so many parts of society, and like it really just sheds a light on like the unfairness of the American society and the American, nation. And I think that's, and everybody's feeling the struggle right now in terms of like the cost of living, and just like we're living in tough times. And I think like this feels like a win for the working class, for the regular folk of America, just regular folk, not billionaires. So the 99% per se, not the 1%, like we're all like in this struggle bus together
Yeah.
while the richer are getting richer, and like make that make sense.
Yeah.
And nobody's saying life has got to be fair, but there's certain things like we were talking about, like human rights.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard for me. I work in healthcare. I've been in healthcare for 20 years, and I know that healthcare's dentistry wise is pretty prominent in your family. And obviously, my healthcare is dentistry. But, and I've had a lot of personal negative experiences with insurance, not necessarily for my own individual self or my family's health. Like, yes, there's issues like my mom needs an EpiPen on her all of the time, and the cost of EpiPens for her bee allergy is extensive. It's not like she has a risk of getting stung by a bee every single day, but at the same time, there is. So she has to have it on her all of the time. So that's like a whole other topic is like the cost of medicine.
It's
And
related.
it is. And one of the biggest things that I've taken on in the dental industry is to fight against insurances as often and as hard as possible. I constantly am having to break down denials from insurance companies just to try and show them right back to them like you're not actually denying the right thing. And I do everything that I can to be an advocate for the patients because nobody's really out there doing that. So, like last week, I saw a denial from an insurance. We had all of the proper attachments, we had all of the proper things. It was a tooth prep for a crown, and the insurance was like, in the x ray submitted, it appears as though the tooth has already been worked on. Please send an image from before the services were rendered. Okay, for one, the x-ray that we sent, it was taken day of service, but that's because the existing x-ray was longer than 6 months, and that is the rule in the office is that you take a new x-ray when the existing one is 6 months or older.
Right.
So in that x-ray for number two, the tooth was not actually prepped whatsoever. The tooth had an existing filling in it, it had active decay in the x ray, all of the things. So I print off the x ray that we took that same day that we sent in, and I printed off the x ray from the 6 month prior. I sent both of those back, and on the front page, I wrote to principal. I wish I took a photo, but I had said on it, please stop denying claims and doing a disservice to our patients.
Mhm.
Please be the change that the world needs to see. because because that's happening with every single insurance. So for me to side with the Riddler, right?
What
or
does Riddler mean? Sorry,
the
because I
the
don't.
Riddler is like the villain in Batman. The Riddler, I am a very big Batman fan, and I am embarrassed that I cannot confidently give you the Riddler's information. But the Riddler,
But he's
to
a villain.
me, he's a villain because he does bad things, he does crime, and he's always leaving encrypted messages behind to try to give you information for his next crime, essentially, or giving you encrypted information to figure out what he did that last crime for, right? It's not always about the premeditated and it's not always about the exact one, I think. I think most of his like riddles are just about like him dodging getting found. So like there's like this joke online that I saw that this guy who assassinated the UHC CEO is like the Riddler. So it's hard for me to find positive angles towards that. Like, truthfully, the memes around it, the memes around the upbringing were a little overwhelming for me to see. Uh, it's a little too much to embrace that because it's not just the UHC CEO that needs a life lesson or the family or the employees surrounding that CEO. It's all of healthcare. And I think that the positive reinforcement towards this type of action is only going to support more of this type of action in our world. And this type of action in our world is exactly what's making things scary. The sudden assassinations and the guy standing in the dark alley behind a car waiting for you to walk out of a building. Imagine what that kind of action is going to bring to our world. Everybody's going to start having bodyguards now just because
Okay,
they've done bad things in their lives.
yeah. No, I agree. I see where you're coming from, and I just want to say that we're already in that world, and we already normalize school shootings, mass shootings. They already happen every day, And it's
It's
like,
true.
why do people care when it's a CEO who has done like really unethical things and is leading a company that is leaving millions of people out of the healthcare they deserve? And why is his death so shocking, where the kids that are in school that are getting shot every day and people who are just innocent civilians who are getting shot by mass shooters who are white men for the most part, who are, lone wolves? Like, why are those shootings normalized and we're okay with that in our country, but we're so outraged at the CEO shooting? Again, it has to do with like the inherent value of people and like our society kind of celebrating millionaires and billionaires. Like, everybody loves Elon Musk, everybody loves Bill Gates, everybody loves Jeff Bezos, like everybody loves Joe Rogan, like because he got this huge thing, his this huge contract with Spotify, and it's like the celebration of celebrities and billionaires while there's so many people living below the poverty line and really struggling, like just to put food on their table in their bellies, and like struggling, like they don't know how they're going to pay the rent, and they don't know how they're going to buy Christmas gifts for their kids. Um, so it's a difficult conversation to have. But people are dying every day. Like, violence like this is already happening. For instance, Gaza is having a genocide right now by Israel. Every day there's been 40,000 individuals who have been killed, and that's like on the low end. And like the majority of them have been women and children. So, like, where's the outrage for that? That's been
Yeah.
happening like for 430 days now, since October 7th, 2023. Um, like, why do Americans, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me too. Like, why is it that our lives are, certain individuals in our society, their lives are more precious than others, you know?
I think I want to answer a few things that you had stated. One being, I don't entirely mean that supporting this villain is
Wait,
putting a
who's the
country.
villain in this
Well,
case?
good point. Um,
Because I see the CEO as the villain.
that's fair. Well, I guess I'm calling the shooter the villain because I'm considering my verbiage coming from like a Batman's world perspective, right? The Joker is technically a villain, but at the end of the day, he is really trying to speak up for mental health, right? There is a really big scene behind him. There is a really big reason for his existence. And the same thing goes for the Riddler, right? All of the villains in the comics always have a soft side. I don't think I know any villain from any comics or stories that don't have some kind of sympathy meaning behind them. And I think that our shooter could and should be referred to as a villain because, yes, the CEO has made really, really bad decisions in his career, and every insurance company has. It's not just United Healthcare, right? It's all of them. That one that I was just talking about, that was Principal Dental Insurance. And Principal is like supposed to be one of the really good ones, right? None of them are good. They're all bad. So when I say villain, I am referring to the shooter because the shooter did something bad, even if it was meaning that it was standing up for something good. That's where I see a villain is that. Now, not that I'm saying that the CEO is not a bad guy. He's totally the bad guy. But I just wish that bad guys were taken down in court and in justice because I don't believe that death stands for anything. And that goes for the same thing when it comes to the children or Gaza or any other type of taking away a life for anything at all. There's no reason anybody's life should be taken away in any way, shape, or form. Um, so I forgot the other thing I was going to say.
I just can I respond to something while you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, go for it.
Okay. I was gonna say, um, it's funny because you're using a movie or like a storyline to understand the situation, which is totally natural because I am too. However, the movie that I'm thinking about is The Equalizer with Denzel Washington. You know, where Denzel Washington is kind of like in that case, like he takes it. They're dealing with criminals, so I think what we have to understand is that billionaires are criminals. Like you should not be making 300, 500, 1,000 times more money than your entry level. Like we should have a cap on billionaires. That's my opinion.
100%.
So let's just and again, like there's nothing ethical under capitalism. Again, like the way society is structured is unethical, 100%. So in The Equalizer, Denzel Washington like is a former, I think like CIA agent or something, and like he takes it upon himself to go and like seek justice for somebody who hit somebody who he loved or something that he really believed in, and he goes and he literally murders like 100 people in like 10 minutes. Like, I don't know if you've seen these movies, but they're very violent, but he's dealing with violent people. So unfortunately, when you're dealing with violent people, like have you ever heard that saying where you can't kill the oppressor, you have to kill the oppressor with the tools of the oppressor? Like like if somebody's coming at you with a knife, like you think you're gonna gotta fight them with a knife too.
Right.
Like you cannot be like, oh, I'm just gonna do hands. Because like if you do hands and somebody's coming at you with a knife, like they're gonna win because they have a knife. So he kind of like meets them with that, like he uses their own tactics against them because these people feel entitled to use them, you know, and then he becomes the equalizer because he avenges or revenges somebody's death, you know, by taking out like a whole group of people who are committing the crimes. And by the way, like It could be like he takes out the bodyguard, he takes out the chef, like anybody who's involved and like is in the way for him to get to the leader of the gang that he's like, trying to eliminate. He will eliminate everybody. Like he's ruthless because they are affiliated with him and they are supporting like the end goal of the leader of the gang. So it's I mean, the ethics are crazy, and I see your side. I see your side so much. Um, and I am not one for violence. I'm definitely like a non-violent person. Um, like I talk about this time and time again. Like the civil rights movement wasn't that long ago. It was in the 60s. Like my parents were alive. So there was like the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. camp, the peace and love, I have a dream. Let's have
Yeah.
a peaceful protest. And then you had the Black Panther Party, the Huey Newtons, the Malcolm X's, who were arming themselves with AK-47 and rifles, like in Oakland, because they were fighting against police brutality, and they took it upon themselves. Since guns are legal in our country, we're going to arm ourselves because the police are arming themselves. So, one tap for tap, tit for tat. You know what I mean? You doing it, I'm doing it.
Right.
And you had these polar opposites, and then everybody in between, like the Rosa Parks, the everybody in between. But you had like these two opposites, and like the movement, the civil rights movement, needed that to accomplish the goals, to end segregation in our country. Like they needed the pressure of the armed resistance, and they needed the pressure of the nonviolent resistance, and collectively, the resistance was able to accomplish the goal, which was to abolish the Jim Crow laws and to end segregation in our country. And because it still exists institutionally.
Totally.
And then what you were saying about like, oh, I wish we could find, we could equalize this or find justice in the legal system. The legal system is so corrupt and
Yeah.
is so wrong. And again, like this country was built on the backs of Black people and on the genocide of Native Americans, and our laws, like our Constitution, every institution in our country is based on white supremacy and maintaining property rights for the original white folk that came here and colonized and raped and pillaged and did all the ugly things. So there's always going to be like this injustice in our system. So like that's why sometimes like going through the system and finding justice that way is just, it's like like this injustice in our system. So like that's why sometimes like going through the system and finding justice that way is just, it's like a losing battle because you're already like, they're already winning in that system. So the resistance, we have to think of ways that are different, that it's so hard because like we're trying to imagine a world that doesn't exist, that isn't that because we were born into the system. This is all we know, but we're saying, hey, this is wrong. There's so much injustice here. And there's going to be people like the CEO assassin that go, fine, take it into my own hands. You think if somebody killed my mom, I wouldn't go kill their mom? I don't know what I would do, but like, trust me, if somebody came at me and my family was there, I would fight back. But I'm never one to lead with violence. That's not me. And I want that to go on the record. I'm not armed. I don't have guns. I don't condone violence. Like, I don't trust myself with a gun because I am very, like, impulsive, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would never do that. I will always go to anywhere you see me, my hands are up. Like I am not armed. I'm not trying to fight. I'm just saying this is wrong. I don't know what the solutions are, but I'm going to be part of I think the best way to understand this is like like the 1% versus the 99, the resistance versus the oppressors, the working class versus the billionaires, the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. Like these are all different terms that kind of explain like the people who have power and the people who don't. Or you can think about in the Middle Ages, the landlords and the people who are in the fields, the peasants, and how did they revolt? The peasants went and they killed the landlords, the lords who had everything. And that's how they broke out of that feudal system, the peasant system.
Yeah.
So time and time again through history, like how did we break free from Great Britain? We revolted. We fought them. We said, get the fuck out of our country. This is America. 1776. We're writing a constitution. Get the fuck out. Like this country is built on violence. Our liberation from Great Britain, violence. And like that's the sad truth about humanity is that like as much as people like you and me who are humanity first, every life matters, nobody should die. Like the people we're dealing with, they don't think like we do, which is hard to comprehend that other people don't value life like you and I do.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's the truth. Like to them, it's collateral damage in the name of profit, period. Because healthcare is a for profit and there's shares. So in the legal system, it says that if your company is publicly traded and has shares, you are legally obligated to make sure that everybody who has shares in your company, you have to make every decision so that you make a profit for your shareholders. So you're not like serving the people who are buying your insurance, you're serving the shareholders, and you are legally obligated to increase their profit, their shares, the value of their shares. So the people, you have to deny the claims, you have to collateral damage in the name of profit. So like he is bound to the shareholders, he's not bound to the individuals that he's supposed to serve. So these are just like really sad realities, really disgusting and ugly. And I'm grappling it with it myself, you know? Because I'm like humanity first, like not one more person has to die, you know?
Yeah.
But the truth is
Yeah.
that every day people are dying, every day.
Yeah. It's a very sad
No,
truth.
it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I swear to God, I wake up every day crying, like looking at, like, what I can't believe is that our phones are showing us like death and destruction. Everybody has a phone on them. And like, not even that is enough for us to be like, fuck this. Like
Yeah.
you're live streaming a genocide. Like imagine if they had live streamed the Holocaust.
Right.
They didn't even have phones back then. And that would have been the British that would have been Hitler. They didn't even have phones back then and they did more to stop the genocide then than we're doing here. Like that is fucking crazy to me. The desensitization of society to death is insane.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I, like I said, I kind of struggle when it comes to the conversation aspect of it because sometimes I feel like it's very difficult to have an opinion. Not in the sense that I can't think for myself, but in the fear that my opinion will come back and haunt me.
And that's why
I
I
don't
go
know
on
how
the
else.
record.
I don't know
That's
how
why
else to like say that.
no, and that's why I go on the record right now, and you can go on the record yourself. I believe in nonviolence. I believe in nonviolence.
Yeah. I definitely believe in nonviolence.
And yes, and we're dealing with violent people. That's a
Right.
contradiction, and we don't like contradictions as human beings, but this is a real contradiction that has real implications, and we need to sit with it. And it's uncomfortable because it's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fair.
you know what I mean? And there are no easy solutions. And in my opinion, a revolution is necessary.
I also think that, not to take it off of the CEO, but I think that one of the reasons why Americans have such a hard time working through things like the school shootings and why they don't talk about it is because exactly what you just said. Like, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. And I think that too many people believe in the sentence, it's not going to happen to me. And when it happens at a school down the street, it's always, oh, well, it's that neighborhood. And it's not my neighborhood because I chose this one and this one's the best. So I think that
Yeah.
that is literally the problem behind the school shooting is that nobody is taking any action aside from policing our schools to actually stop it. And nobody's talking about it because they don't believe it's going to happen in their neighborhood.
That's so true. I think that that's the only way to go on with life. Like that's the only way to cope with reality.
Yeah.
Like oh,
And I
like
think that too
because
many
imagine
people
if
are taking that route.
well we have to like you have to that's psychological like safety. Like
Yeah.
if you realize how scary like if you looked at the stats, the probability of you getting in an accident is so high, but you still drive every day. You can't
Right.
go out. You know what I mean? You can't go out thinking like if and I've been there because I struggle with OCD and intrusive thoughts. There has if you let the intrusive thoughts and like the fear and the anxiety of what could go wrong overtake you, that's a mental illness. First
Totally.
of all, that's a mental illness. And me and another thing I found really interesting I just learned is that like women with autism or neurodivergence, they have a super strong sense of justice. Like they have you seen that? Like
Oh, yes.
characteristic?
Yeah, because well, it's
Why is it?
I
Or is that
think that
just a thing?
it's something along the lines of the rules, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm going
We
to
want to
use the
follow
word
rules.
I'm going to use the word autism because that's the most rule-based neurodivergent that has verbiage behind it that I can think of in the moment. And I know that it's very like life is very rule based, right? Like we wake up at this amount of time because we have to do ABC before we leave the house. Like that is the structure, that is the rules. And when somebody does something against the rules intentionally, all you want is for that person to follow the rules. So that's where that justice comes from. I've actually been kind of watching a lot about that lately. So it doesn't surprise me that it's a very just, like I haven't heard it in a justice verbiage form, just more about like the rule following and making sure that other people, like we make the best like hall monitors because we are the rule followers.
Yeah, I'm definitely a rule person and like that's exactly how I was raised like with my brother like that was always the recommendation like have like pictures on the wall like literally we had charts throughout my whole house like if you're taking a shit you gotta use a paper you gotta use a wipe you gotta wash your hands for 30 seconds and like there would be like a chart like this and like I just got used to like there's a method to all
Processes,
of this.
SOPs to life.
Yeah, SOPs. Yeah. Well, I forget what they're called, but they have a name like in the autism world, which who gives a fuck? But yeah, they're just like instructions.
Yeah.
And like my house was filled with that. And like I kind of became like, that was helpful for me, even though like it was kind of silly. It was like, because I'm an overthinker. And again, I struggle with anxiety and intrusive thoughts. So getting out of my brain and just following directions feels good. Like I don't have to make decisions right now. I just have to follow the rules. And look
I
at me, like I'm
agree.
still like that. Like this is my to-do list. Like I need like, you know what I mean? Like this is what needs to be followed. And like that's why something that my cousin said at her medical school graduation, because she's kind of like us, a rule follower, but kind of not. Um, she said, something that she learned in medical school, which is crazy that she confessed this, was like learning what the rules are so that you know how to break them and which ones you can and which ones you can't break and understand what the rules are. And then I think like where you and I are at is like the next phase. It might be because we're growing up or we're getting older, we're maturing, we're asking ourselves like, do these rules make sense? Like,
Yeah.
are these rules aligned with our values?
Yeah. And
Like,
that's been the biggest problem in my life is not agreeing with the rules because it doesn't agree with my ethics.
yeah, when I say values, I mean ethics. Like values, like that was something I was taught in San Diego, like when I was working in politics. Like, what are your values? Like, I value abortion rights. I value housing rights. I value, nonviolence. I value protecting kids from whatever. Like, you have to know really what your values are, like at all times, and you have to like constantly like refine your value box or whatever. And then like as you navigate through life, you can make decisions easier. Like, does this shit align with my values? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And then you proceed accordingly. And that's been really helpful for me. Like I remember when I, for instance, like I value sustainability and shopping, thrift shopping, not over consuming. That's a value that I have, right? I have a strong sense of like climate justice or whatever. So when I started working in retail, I was like, this doesn't line up with me at all. I was like, how can I be selling people new clothes and I'm all about thrifting? You know, and there's like this huge contradiction. And I'm like, this isn't aligned with my values. But then I have to say, you know what? I need the paycheck. Like sometimes you can't be so like value driven to the point where you're pigeonholing yourself and like because we still have
Right.
to exist within the society. Like you still have to make
Yeah.
dollars. Like
Yeah, I agree.
because I used to be like that in all my 20s. Like for instance, my dad works in petroleum. He always told me, go work in petroleum. There's money, oil and gas. And I was like, no, like I will not contribute to climate change. I'm so
Yeah.
dumb because my life could be so different right now if I had just listened to my dad and joined him in his field. But out of like the sense of justice, I was like, I cannot. I have to be a climate warrior. I have to work in clean energy. You know what I mean? Like I cannot make any money. And it's so silly because the reason I'm in this country is because of oil and gas. Like that's where my family's money came from. Period.
Yeah.
So for me to now
Interesting.
say like, oh, I'm not affiliated with that. It's like, bitch, like you owe your whole life to that.
I mean, that's a good mirror to look into and to kind of reflect on. But at the same time, though, is just because you owe your whole life to that, you owe all of it, does not make it that much better. And it really does not mean that you should appreciate or accept the money from it just because it doesn't line up with you personally. Like,
No, I need the money now. Now I'm like, you know what? I need this. There's nothing ethical in this world. Like everything is. That's the other extreme. And at the end of the day, like I need to eat and I need to have shelter over my head. And if that's where the money's coming from, I'm not going to go on a hunger strike because I don't want petroleum money. I'm not. I'm going to eat because I'm human. I'm hungry. I'm going to ask my dad for money. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna ask my dad for money.
Like I'm not gonna die on this hill, like just in the name of like being, you know what I mean? Because it's there's always
Yeah.
gonna be contradictions there, so it's just kind of like giving yourself grace. Like you know, even now I'm considering like collaborating with my dad, like on some petroleum projects, like you know, and sitting with these contradictions is important, and it's something that we have to cope with.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm making a
Okay.
mess of my mascara.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna skip mascara because I think I got some eyeshadow in my eye and it's
Oh,
watering too
making it
much.
watery. Yeah, I hate that
Yeah.
feeling.
I'm gonna let it kind of slow down. And then after this, I'm gonna go get ready and brush my teeth and stuff. So I'm not gonna put on lipstick yet.
Okay. Well, I think you're at a good stopping point.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if there was anything else that we should talk about. But yeah, I just noticed we're at like 50 minutes already.
Have you seen the new episode that he uploaded last night?
No, I was like I said, I went to bed really early.
Me too. I didn't even see that text till this morning. But
Same.
thank you for having this conversation and like sitting with the uncertainties, the contradictions of life, and like thank you for still smiling and like, you know, being present. And I'm sorry that like I just want to apologize. Sometimes I know I'm really extreme and like I mean well. I just get like, you know, it's part of the autism thing, like feeling so intensely about things and trying not to because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's important that we regulate our emotions, but I believe that talking through it the way that we do is beneficial for that process so that this way we can have a better understanding of how we feel and think, and it helps with our day-to-day actions and the decisions that we have to make every day. So I'm glad that we have these conversations because sometimes it's really difficult for me to form opinions about the bigger political issues in our world. I don't always have a soundboard to pitch my thoughts off of and to help hone in what I'm experiencing through that process. So it was really nice to talk about it.
Yeah. Thank you. You too. It makes me feel like I feel so grateful to have this space. Like I look forward to it so much. Like starting on Friday, I'm like, yes, 2 more days till Monday.
I know. That's why I'm really glad that we did it on Mondays because,
Yeah, something to look forward to.
Garfield, opposite of Garfield, trying to like make a positive out of a Monday.
Yeah, totally. Monday scaries. What's that?
Yeah, we got Vidcast.
Yeah. Well, I love you so much, and we'll stay in touch during the day, obviously.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day. I love you.
I love you. You love me. We're a happy
We
family.
are one big family.
Barney. Bye.
Ooh.